Hey, I'm Charles Soule. You're watching SuperWonder Legacy.
Hey, this is Jason J. Lewis, Superman from Justice League Action, and you're watching SuperWonder Legacy.
You're strong.
I know.
You a sight for sore eyes.
It's nice to have someone who likes you for being you.
It's okay. I've got you now.
Just like in the movies.
Welcome to SuperWonder Legacy. I am Jared. I'm here with Britt. What's up, Britt?
Hello, hello.
And today we are doing part 2 of our series on Rebirth Downgrades, where we talk about Rebirth Wonder Woman this time. So we're, again, comparing New 52 Rebirth Wonder Woman, because, let me put it this way, Britt, of the two, it seems that Rebirth Wonder Woman gets, like, the most bashing of Rebirth Superman and Wonder Woman. I mean, I'm sorry, New 52 Wonder Woman as compared to New 52 Superman.
I mean, well, yes, because, of course, you have, New 52 with the Zeus daddy origin, and then you have the Amazons, who are more mythologically accurate than DC's Amazons.
Yeah, exactly. Which, it's kind of funny how the fan base threw a fit about that, but I'm like, that's the argument you keep making about Wonder Woman being bi. But anyway, and what's up, NJ? So it's like, again, here's what happens with this. And Britt and I have said many times that around the time when they were transitioning to Rebirth, Rucka got with Jurgens, and one of their intentions was to make it so the relationship never happened. Isn't that interesting?
Right.
So Rucka apparently thought that Wonder Woman being flirty with a murderous cat lady was better.
Of course. I mean, he also thought it was better for Diana to have relations with the Amazons who raised her.
To quote Austin Powers, he turned her into the village bicycle of the Amazons, essentially.
Ew.
Am I wrong?
No, but still.
And this is coming from the spiritual lesbian / straight man.
Right.
Anyways, I have to reference that every time because that is just so stupid of a thing to say. Anyway, so the other thing about this, it's like when you get to let's start with New 52. Because here's the thing about this version of Wonder Woman. The thing about this version of the character is she was like a different. The thing about New 52, and NJ is partly right. It did hurt the Amazon's reputation, because of like, oh, they're the ones that like. Because you even go see like any lore video on the Amazons in DC Comics now, and they still think that New 52 origin for the Amazons is right, even though it's not, but even though it's the mythology. But it's like, the thing about this, taking Wonder Woman outside of it, it wasn't like that horrible. It's like, let me put it this way, and you make a good point. And this basically describes any of the New 52 books. Yes, there were problems, but it weren't problems that couldn't have been like fixed with some actual effort.
Exactly. I mean, the Zeus origin, honestly, they kept it ambiguous to a certain extent. It was where you can have it that the other gods gifted Diana, but Zeus wanted to have control, and maybe he did have an affair with Hippolyta at one point. And so she thought that, the fact that she fell asleep on the beach and she didn't know of her having this baby appear. Did she have her in labor? Who knows? We never actually see that. So again, they kept it ambiguous. It could have been that, or again, have it that she did have the clay origin, but she did have an affair, a one night stand or whatever, and Zeus wanted to have control. So he, put some of his powers within that. You can explain why Diana has the God mode because of Zeus. Something like that. It could been easily fixed. The Amazons, that would have been more so of it's them learning not to fight fire with fire. You know, they've been tortured, they've been assaulted, and so they wanted to take revenge. And the Amazons are not about revenge. And that is something that they should have learned to um, end up having them as the DC Amazons that we know.
Yeah, exactly. And you make a great point about the Amazons, because I've long said, all right, so let's say they wanted to actually let's say they wanted to keep the Zeus to combine the two, fix intrinsic canon. Again, you actually did exactly what I would do. Make it so Zeus is still technically your father with the clay origin by him sneaking in a little superpower into the mix when all the gods were contributing to Diana. That way you could still technically consider that. But it's and it's the whole thing with the Zeus origin. It's that's the least of this Wonder Woman's problem, because you and I have long said it just depends on if the story, on how you factor that into the story. If you do a good story with either origin, that's totally fine. But it's you just need to actually have the right creative that knows what to do with the storyline. Plus the fact, here's why this happened. When you consider the fact that this was coming out around the time when movies coming out about Greek mythology were all about Zeus's kids, do you really blame DC for pushing for this?
Exactly. That's exactly the point. You have Percy Jackson. You have, well, Blood of Zeus is a little bit younger, but still within the development of that.
You had the Clash of the Titans movies.
Exactly. So you have a lot of the mythology being pushed in other media. So who better really as a character of DC to explore that is Wonder Woman. It's just the fact of how they execute that exploration. And yeah, it had its flaws, but at the same time, it could have been fixed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It could have been fixed. Exactly. That's the problem with a lot of stuff. It's and to be clear, I want to say this again. If you like this, if you like Rebirth, if you like any of these versions, guess what? That is more than okay. You are allowed to like it. It's just Britt and I are just expressing our opinions on why we didn't like it. Also happened to be one of the 1,000 Zeus bastards, big mistake. Yeah, but NJ, again, DC is always going to do things to update the characters for the modern day. And if the theme of Greek mythology is let's have a bunch of Zeus's kids, of course they're going to push her in that direction. So that's why changing the origin, particularly when you're doing a full hard reboot like the New 52, is a good example of that. And by the way, the problem is these writers were trying to combine two universes that were not compatible for each other. That's true as well. So it's the thing about before we transition to Rebirth, the thing about New 52, and again, granted there weren't a lot of good stuff. I kind of liked her suit, her newer suit, but I know Britt considers it the linebacker era of Wonder Woman. That's hilarious. But it's they were trying. It's the New 52 is basically the era of experimentation, trying to see, okay, so how can we change these characters but still keep the legacy of them? And that's why it really worked really well there. And by you don't see Batman and Superman's origin changing with hard reboots. They've changed them a few times. John Byrne's Superman changed. He changed the way Krypton was. You do see a lot of Superman's origin changing, NJ.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly why they had, the most drastic changes were Superman and Wonder Woman, and it was for their origins. So even in post-crisis, Superman had at least about 5 retellings or so. So yeah, it all depends.
Yeah, but that's the point. It's all these origins change all the time. And Cameron says, honestly, if you want the Amazons to be that, just have it be another tribe. That's the way they could have fixed that. Just say that that was another tribe of Amazon.
The banner.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. And Jay says, but Bruce's parents always end up dead, right? Well, yeah, because that's fundamental to how he becomes Batman. Either origin doesn't change Wonder Woman becoming the champion of the Amazons. That's the difference. It's like the fundamental core of the character is still there. And then even Batman gets changed with his family. On one hand, they're benevolent. On the other hand, they're criminals to a degree, yeah. So then we get to Rebirth. So here's the thing about Rebirth. Actually, you know what, Britt? Why don't you start talking about Rebirth?
I may have to stay on mute for the rest of the episode then. Um, so with Rebirth, that was supposed to be going back to post-crisis continuity. And obviously we did not have that. But it's also written by Rucka, and he has a problem with respecting prior work. He wants to envision or, have the character in his own vision, which so he will, you know, change from the very beginning. So you have Wonder Woman Year One for Rebirth, and this is supposed to be the definitive origin for Diana. And honestly, it was just a poor man's Perez redo. So it in taking all the elements that made Perez the golden standard, that really he took a lot of the emotion out of it, and he wanted to, of course, implement his spiritual lesbianism into it. So in
Mm-hmm.
year one, you have Diana, and she's like this airheaded, Disney princess, which in Perez, Diana was the Disney princess. She was that, free spirit butterfly, but she was still smart. Rucka's not so much. So she obviously has had relations with half of the Amazons. And honestly, that just does not make sense, because why would Diana be with, her aunts and second mothers? And their reasoning is it that they didn't want Diana to be a virgin when she met Steve, which is
So?
still, which is still kind of
What
whatever.
difference does it make?
Exactly. So, of course, they boast about that. And the main villain is Ares, which, again, very much a poor man's Perez version. And you don't have that dialogue, you don't have that epic battle that Perez presented. And of course, you have to have Steve that looks like a Ken doll in him. Uh, Nicola Scott has this thing of him being shirtless or whatever. And also with the Natalie Nunn long moon shaped chin. So
Mm-hmm.
you have all this, and you don't have Julia or Vanessa. So you don't feel that motherly bond. Rucka also implied that once Diana leaves the island, she can never come back. He feels like Diana leaving the mascara means that she is, leaving paradise. And why
Which
would
is
she?
hilarious, Britt, because guess what she did all the time in his run?
Right. But the thing is, he has been trying to have her stop and isolate herself from Themyscira, even in his first run. So
Mm-hmm.
he's been wanting to close off a lot of things for Diana to make her have this depression and darkness, of course, for her to fit Batman, because he does like that non-existing dynamic more. So within that, um, he instead of Julia and Vanessa, he has Minerva, Barbara, and or AKA Cheetah. And he tried to imply some type of romantic tension with them. He says that Minerva she has this toxic love for Diana, and is honestly, again, a
Toxic.
retelling of, Perez, because Perez Minerva, she was obsessed with Diana, but she was obsessed with having the power. Basically, she was an old hag in her 40s that, saggy skin and everything, and she wanted to be young. She wanted to be powerful. She wanted to be rich. And she saw this young, free-spirited girl with so much power, and she wanted it. So she is cursed. Well, with Rucka, he wanted very much to sympathize with the murderer. And instead of having, yes, Perez had some elements in his run that doesn't quite work, in modern times. But for the times, it made sense. So his Barbara Ann, she was a colonizer, of course, and she had, I think his name is Chama or Chima, and he was an African slave. And so within that, how she gets the curse of the cheetah. Well, it wasn't. It was actually a blessing. The cheetah is actually a good spirit god, but or a spirit.
Yeah, it's like
but
Barbara corrupted it, right?
but Barbara is the one who corrupted it. Well, with, of course, Rucka, he didn't want Barbara to seem like she was the bad one. So he made it seem like she is the victim, and the cheetah the cheetah cursed her instead. And he basically villainized an African spirit, which again, in turn, is very racist.
Oh boy.
So there's really no way to get out of that. But he wants to make it seem like Diana will play nurse and therapist, just like he wants her to play nurse and therapist for Batman with now Minerva, to help her and, free her from this curse. But again, it doesn't make sense because the cheetah was never supposed to be anything bad. It was that Minerva is the one that corrupts the cheetah.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and Etta Candy, she is not the same version that we know in Post Crisis. Of course, she is basically the token black friend, and she does nothing.
Also, well, actually, no. She hooks up with Cheetah for some reason. Rucka has this like obsession with hooking Cheetah up with random characters.
Well, yeah, exactly. So, even in his older run, Minerva was so bad that she actually, Priscilla Rich was dead. I think she died of a heart attack or something, old age. But he brought her back, and supposedly Barbara killed Priscilla to gain something with that. So it's kind of like, okay, yes, she is very much evil in Post Crisis. So why would you change that in Rebirth if you're supposed to have Rebirth going back to Post Crisis? But whatever. So we fast forward to Diana, just all of these things that, again, Diana learning of, man's world, and she actually gets her powers in jail. She was taken to the military base, and she gets her powers in jail, which is not by Disney animals. So it really just doesn't have that feel, of Perez, that Diana is gifted, that whatever other origin is totally better than year one. You're better off just reading Perez, flaws and all. Then you go to his present day story, which is the lies. And Diana supposedly got bit by a grass snake and was manipulated by the gods. So her first 10 years of being in man's world was nothing more than an illusion. How is that possible? Nobody knows. And even Rucka did not explain that whatsoever.
And again, okay, so you're telling me that Deathstroke and Batman and Superman have never been to the island even though they were there?
Exactly.
So if you're trying to tell me that it was like a illusion by Diana's mind, somehow she has mental projection powers? Was she Emma Frost?
And also, Steve would not have been as salty if Diana had never had a relationship with Clark. And of course, Rucka wanted to take that time too to say that her relationship with Clark was easy, and because they had the powers and everything like that, knowing that he does not know about the relationship. But not only that, but the way Diana got with Steve was, first it was influenced by DCEU, and then it was making her a mental case. codependent. She was emotionally unstable, and she lost everything. She couldn't go back home. She had no home. So in order for Steve to be like this savior or be the only person that she cared about, Rucka took away all, every pillar, every foundation that made Diana who she was. And he also, took away a lot of the mother bonding. Yes, Hippolyta and Diana would clash, but the way that he had it of Diana not being able to go back home to her mother, which even in New 52, Hippolyta was, turned into a statue. But at the same time, Diana still wanted her mother back.
She even went to go see her when you're talking about like in the New 52 Superman Wonder Woman book by our good friend Charles Sewell. So I'm like, what are you doing?
Rebirth Diana did not have any type of, she cried or whatever, but it wasn't that she could go to her mother. And that is, again, taken away so much in order for her to only care about Steve.
Yeah, exactly. And remember when Rucka went on a big temper tantrum that he goes, "Oh, they were supposed to give me total control," and I'm like, did you really think that DC Comics was going to let you do whatever you want?
I mean, he was promised some of that just for him to write, the book, but at the same time, it's kind of like
no. It's like even when they promise you're going to get to do whatever you want, they don't mean it.
That, and I mean, whatever he meant, with whatever you want was probably like, okay, no, you're going too far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, no, will you stop it? It's like, bro, any writer will tell you, you can't do whatever you want with these characters. And plus, hey, Greg, you've been in the industry for long enough. You know that changes all the time, right?
Right.
But
well, he should, but he feels like he is the exception to that rule.
Yeah, exactly. It's really dumb. And they're letting King do whatever he wants, though. Are you sure? We're going to find out that, like, King wanted to do stuff much worse. And then it's like, no, I didn't. But we'll see. Did he really throw a temper tantrum? Because he did an article talking about, they came to me, they begged for me to take over Wonder Woman. And I'm like, show receipts. Show receipts. I highly doubt they came and begged you.
I think at that time, Jeff Johns was probably begging and everything, but other than that, I have no idea if that's really true. He also said that he left the book because he felt like he wasn't able to do what he wanted, so he was kind of like, threatening to off himself too. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, he seems like a drama queen.
Really, the guy that considers himself a spiritual lesbian is a drama queen. Really, who would have thought that? By the way, Andrew with the $5 Canadian super chat. What's up? His run takes forever to get Amazon back. Yeah, exactly. That's the other thing. It's so bad. It's so long. But anyway, so then you get to the lies, the truth. This arc is not the way to start off your run, because I get that you wanted to like undo New 52 and stuff, but again, the way it ends, the whole, "Oh, I've never been home" or anything like that. I'm like, what the hell are you? The other characters have been here. Did you not think this through? The answer is no, by the way. But it's like, this is my problem with DC during Rebirth. They were so quick to completely destroy New 52 that they didn't even think about, okay, so how do we actually make this work? It's like, remember, the arc starts off with her dismissively like destroying the New 52 suit. Britt, are you there?
I'm sorry, on mute and had bad connection. Mm-hmm. Okay, but yeah, the whole thing doesn't make sense, especially with having the lasso of truth, and that pretty much undermined that as well, because with the lasso of truth is supposed to basically nothing can get in the way, of Diana knowing the truth. She can't be under any type of of an illusion, any illusions. So yeah, every logical thing, or quote unquote logical thing, within the Wonder Woman mythos, he threw it out the window for this story.
Yeah, exactly. And, yeah, it's like logic went right out the window with this first arc. That's why when I read it, I was like, wait. It's a, well. Also, here's the other thing, Britt. Without the lasso, she's naturally immune to being lied to. It's like she cannot. To your point, she can't be deceived even without the lasso. That's one of the tricks, the gifts, if you will. So I'm like, what the hell are you doing here? It's like, and this is the guy that everyone says has this deep understanding of Wonder Woman.
Right.
He doesn't have a deep understanding of a deep pool. And by Andrew with the $5 Canadian says the mirror doesn't make sense. How New 52 Wonder Woman pre-New 52 Lawrence smashed the mirror. I think that's I think that was supposed to be just you're taking that too literally. I think it's more of like a visual representation of, oh, my past is shattered. I'm having conflicting memories.
Yes, exactly. That's what it is. But even with that, nothing makes sense narratively. And the thing is with Rucka is the lies were obviously things that he did not like, which was mainly Clark and Diana's relationship and any other run that he didn't agree with. And the truth was really just his own thing with Rebirth. But even if you want to take, like what Dan Jurgens did was, Superman's Rebirth, Superman's history starts with his run only, with Death of Superman, marrying Lois and having John. He even contradicts his own run, because where is Diana being an ambassador? Where is, he brought back the Bull Man or whatever, but that's it. There's nothing truly to say that this is post-crisis Wonder Woman, and even with Steve, that he was an old man married to Etta. If you're going back to post-crisis, these are the main elements that you should be going back to.
And also, Rucka didn't even revert the costume, which I know that I blame a DC editorial, because again, DCEU.
Right. It was to have, synergy with DCEU. And it's understandable, but at the same time, unnecessary.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's like, bro, it's like that's again why I can't stand Rebirth. And if you notice, all the people that are complaining about New 52 to Rebirth and trying to claim New Rebirth is like peak are one of two different types of people. You're right. They're the post-crisis fanboys that never learn to let go, and B, it's the people that never actually read it but are being like told by other people that it's bad and you're not allowed to like it.
Exactly.
That's what it is. So then you get to, and let's not even forget the fact, okay, so Steve Trevor is so nicer. He put her in a mental institution.
Exactly. Instead of trying to get her back home or something like that, yeah, she's sent into an asylum.
Also,
and again,
why would the lasso of truth break Diana's mind?
I have no idea. It does not make sense at all. And it was a whole entire humiliation thing, and especially with having Diana in a straitjacket on a cover of a Wonder Woman book.
Yeah, do we really need that?
No, that was terrible. And just having Diana so emotionally unstable and, mentally unstable. And so you basically manipulated her into being with Steve, with having her so vulnerable like that. And that's just not how a relationship is supposed to be and how it's supposed to start. With Clark and Diana's relationship, it starts with that emotional bonding, but how Steve and Diana got together was basically guilt tripping her that she was in another relationship. She did not care for Steve, didn't love him in that way, and she was supposed to feel bad, and now she is supposed to be with him out of obligation because of, default. He's the love interest or whatever. But no, that's not how that goes. So now, because of this, we have the run that we have currently.
Yeah, exactly. Cameron says, but Britt, without conflicts or arguments, the relationship is boring. Yeah, you're saying just like Tomasi. Oh, NJ says, NJ asked the question, which is worse, her being put in asylum or her offing herself? That's a good question.
I mean, both of them was because of Steve, so it's 50-50.
Yeah, neither one is okay. And if you're talking about the degree of BSery, they're both equal. Let me put it this way, neither should happen. Let me put it to you that way, okay? Both of them are egregious. And this alone, the fact that this was a cover, first off, but the fact that this was a plot point is, again, why I will never consider this run as anything more than hot garbage. That alone. That should not be a thing.
Exactly.
But anyway, and he claims he likes Wonder Woman, but he puts her through this. I'm like, bro, there are some things you just should not put these characters through. That's it. I don't care if you're like, oh, I'm an artist and I have my story I want to tell with them. I don't care. If you're working for for DC, you're working for corporate comics. There are some things you can't do with corporate characters. If you want to do that, come up with your own generic Amazon character and then try and do that to her.
All right.
It's like, go back to making like your own like creator-owned comics, such as like what's the word? Oh, the Old Guard, those movies that came out on Netflix that no one talks about anymore because they're generic as shit. Did you ever see those movies, Britt?
No.
Don't. They're horrible. There's a scene in it. It's one of the most like, okay, it's a scene that could only happen with Rucka in the first movie. So two of the immortals are gay and they're together. All right. So they're like captured by the bad guys and the guards are watching them. And then the two gay couple are sharing a kiss or like trying to comfort each other. Then one of them goes, oh, is he your boyfriend? And I'm like, what guard is going to say that? Are you stupid? And I'm like, the hell is this? And thank you, Anthony Jackson. But you see what I'm talking about? That's the level of writing that Greg Rucka is capable of.
Exactly.
I'm just like, what the hell? The problem also is all about propping up Lois and Steve, even though they're side characters. They're not meant to get this much attention. They're meant to be either the one being saved or the one being the mentor figure. That's it. That's it. Steve, at this point, post-crisis proved he doesn't have to be the love interest. So anyone saying that he is her Lois Lane, and I go, if that were true, he would be with her forever. He wasn't. In fact, if anything, the part of Wonder Woman that people consider the peak Wonder Woman is when he's not with her.
Exactly. And well, from Rucka, he did say that Lois was, that Superman has saw a lot of wonders, which, being shady. And he said that Lois is one of the greatest wonders. You can tell his mentality. And with Steve, they basically wanted him to be Captain America, but DC's version, and still failed with that.
Yeah, because Cap's actually a good character. And by the way, Rocky, you love Lois. You mean the time you wrote a Lois book that A, no one bought, and B, quickly became the question book because you'd rather be writing Renee Montoya?
Exactly.
That's the funny part. It's like he liked Lois so much, he wrote a book and then didn't write Lois.
Right.
Anyway, so then you get to the real thing they really hated, which is the Superman-Wonder Woman relationship. And the more that these post-crisis writers talk about this relationship, the more they demonstrate that they never really had any conception of who these characters are. Because it's like Jurgens and Rucka try and make Superman all about Lois, which makes me think they're not Superman fans, they're just Lois Lane fans. And then it's like, and then it's like with Rucka, he's only upset because in New 52 he couldn't. It's like Wonder Woman was not dating Cheetah. Let's not forget about that. So that's all this man cares about.
Well, it was dating Cheetah or whatever, being with an Amazon, one of his OCs or something, or she wasn't close to Batman.
Yeah, exactly. That's the other thing. So it's like, Rucka, I don't want to hear you criticize this relationship if A, you didn't read it, or B, you want to downplay it. I'm like, none of what this guy does with Wonder Woman at this point. I defend the post-crisis run because there's some good stuff in there, but this I will never defend. By Andrew says $5 Canadian. But I thank you for all the super chats, man. Did you know Wonder Woman Year One was supposed to be Wonder Woman Earth One? Had Morrison not in the book. Well, that explains why Wonder Woman is also dating an Amazon. And now, well, it's like she kisses Artemis, and I love how that image is always used by the Wonder Woman fandom to say, "Oh my gosh, you're like." She like look how she kisses an Artemis. They belong together. Even though if you go to the I think previous page or following page, Artemis talks about you'll always be a baby to us. So, what are you gonna do, brother?
Yeah, that is still very questionable. I mean, if you have that, and the fact that a lot of the fans will ignore these kind of problems in order to push a sort of narrative.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, Cameron says, "Whoa, go back to that Batman comment. He wanted to do what?"
Yeah, for the longest, Rucka has wanted Diana to be with Batman. He said in a YouTube interview that he thinks that Wonder Bat can work because he wants Diana to, in a sense, rebel against Hippolyta. That Batman represents everything that Hippolyta is against. That he is, emotionally unstable or distant or whatever, this dark, brooding man. But Diana finds interest in order to rebel against her mother, basically saying that she is right and she can do whatever she wants to do. But that is not Diana. She will never go against Hippolyta in that sense. She will never disrespect Hippolyta. On the opposite side of that, you have where Perez had Clark as basically the anti-Zeus and Hercules, and he would essentially be the man that if Hippolyta would accept someone for Diana, he would be that one because he does represent that positiveness from a man with and of power.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So it's like if you really understand the Amazon's history, you would get this. So I'm like, I don't know what it's like. All it is, he's blinded by nostalgia, or it's like, oh, it interferes with the way I see the character. I don't care. I don't care. I really just don't care. And by the way, Randy says, so Superman and Wonder Woman being together is wrong, but Wonder Woman dating Cheetah is good. Yeah, I know. You wanted Wonder Woman to be with a murderous cat lady. Oh, and someone just commented on Reddit, but he went out of his way to give sympathetic backstories to Cheetah, to Veronica Cale and stuff. And I'm like, here's how I responded, Britt. Not every villain needs to be sympathetic. We can have villains that are just evil. To quote the Master of the Universe movie, some people are just evil. Stop trying to make me feel bad for these villains.
But honestly, there's no way to really, I guess, make Cheetah seem like a good person. With all of that, it still ends up, either way, it still ends up bad. Whether she is the old hag who, corrupts the Cheetah, or it's that you have the African, culture turn that evil. But either way, somehow Barbara is still a bad person because the Cheetah still ends up corrupted. If the Cheetah was is a spirit, if Barbara was a good person, I would think that it would actually have a positive thing happen, and that she would
it
be
wouldn't
a
be
good person.
corrupted. The whole purpose of corruption implies that the thing that does the corrupting was the bad part.
Right. So yeah, either way, you can't really change anything with this.
Yeah, exactly. So then you get to how the new 52 Superman Wonder Woman is treated by Rebirth. It treats it as, oh my gosh, it was so easy and stuff. And I'm like, you mean when she almost killed him because he was turning into Doomsday? Was that easy, Greg? Was that easy? Or about how the fact that they both struggle with being alone and isolated. I know you're upset you couldn't do that with Diana and Sheeta, but bro, oh, and NJ says, but the African god is bad in this one. No, I understand that. That's also bad. So you're telling me African culture is evil then? Because if he had shown a good African god, that would be one thing, but he didn't.
Exactly.
If you're not going to do that, don't put all the it's like James Gunn making the Kryptonians evil. Okay, it's not good. Okay, but it's like, Britt, talk about Rebirth and Super Wonder, shall you?
Okay, so yeah, even we know the relationship does not exist or whatever, and on Diana's side, it was that they supposedly broke up or something like that, and it was her fault, of course. But on Superman's side, it just never existed. And even honestly, with Superman, no prior relationship from Lois existed. He can't be around other women, of course. But with Diana, it seems that she is just bad at relationships, and it is her fault. She is guilt tripped with Steve. She has to be with Steve. If not, you have these self insertions from other writers. I would say that even with Clunrad, bringing up Siggy, it was really them, trying to get, fans to like this run, but as we saw, the sales torpedoed, and Siggy was a cardboard character. He did not bring anything really to Diana's story development, character development, or whatever. And honestly, the only relationship that was genuine was with Clark. But now again, we're back with King trying to justify why Steve is supposed to be important. With the New 52, we had, yes, it was very flawed. The way it came about, it was a lot of miscommunication. It was where DC thought of it as a public thing, but it wasn't so much as a gimmick. It was more so like, okay, this is something huge and we need to publicize it. We need to have it on the news. We need to do this and that.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was a big phenomenon. You had merchandise, you had fans just all over the place. And it brought sales with 100K pre-orders, one of the top books that they had. And I mean there's actually a tweet, of course, of hating that the art was so good for Super Wonder. And yeah, you don't have that the quality of art, and neither the quality of writing for these, relationships that they currently have. And a lot of people struggle. They hate to admit that Charles Soule's book is actually a good book. They hate to admit that.
Mm-hmm.
But currently, yeah, Clark and Diana's friendship even is tainted, distant, or non-existent. And that was the thing that Rucka did not want from Sacrifice. He had, I think it was Wonder Woman 226, where he goes through Clark and Diana's history, but even in that issue, he rewrites certain things. And it's like, that's not how their relationship was. They admire each other, they care for each other, they do have this friendship, but they also have that, that underlying that they do have feelings for each other. But Rucka, he wanted to make it seem like, oh, they are just friends, and it's the public who pushes them as a romantic pair, not actually exploring that, yes, they do have feelings for each other, regardless of being best friends, and they will acknowledge that, and it will create some awkwardness, but they are, in a sense, sort of past it, but not really. So it's supposed to have that tension there. He took that all out. And then you go towards, sacrifice and Clark being completely out of character to make it seem like Diana is this monster for killing Max Lord, even though he has killed before and everything. And with that ending, Rucka was basically going to have Clark and Diana distant, but what he wanted to do was have Diana go to jail and Bruce break her out. And then I guess they make amends as friends and wanted to pursue something a little bit more or give them that opportunity to be best friends as Clark and Diana were. So yeah, his whole thing has been to ruin even Clark and Diana's friendship.
Yeah, exactly. Because and doesn't that make Lois look even worse if like it's like Clark can't even be around other women?
Yes, because I mean, honestly, that just shows the incompetence of how the writer cannot balance relationships, multiple relationships, whether it is even platonically. It has to be some sort of threat in there. And I mean, if you are confident or that the relationship is solid, you could have these different female characters around and you can build these other relationships. But yeah, it just says how shaky the relationship and your status quo is.
Yeah, exactly. So then we get to Steve Trevor. This is the other thing. All right. So Steve Trevor in this. So this is the same. This is still new 52 Steve. I want to be very clear. First off, he's just a knockoff Oliver Queen. Let's be very clear about this with the goatee. But second off, the other thing about Steve in this is like, you realize new 52 Steve Trevor was a stalker. So you're basically having her fall in love with her stalker.
Yes.
What are you doing?
And he also pressured Diana. He, guilt tripped her even then. Diana was not ready for a relationship. She did not care for Steve in that sense, or she was young and it wasn't something that she built towards. That wasn't something until she met Clark. With Clark, she felt that love and that, okay, I want to be in a relationship. With Steve, not so much. So to have it where Diana, again, she even called Steve her survivor, basically in a backhanded way, saying that he's the only survivor of the crash, which it was. He retconned it to where it was multiple men on the plane with Steve, but Steve was the only survivor. And so Diana calls him her survivor. And it's kind of weird. Like, I would not say that.
Yeah, do you want to constantly remind your boyfriend, hey, remember the time when everyone you knew died?
And yeah, you're the only survivor, so that's why I'm with you. Like, that is really, what is this?
I never put that together, Britt. Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
Like, what, so what?
Did you not think that through? The answer is no, by the way.
That is supposed to be romantic, that, it's some type of star-crossed, fate thing that everyone that you knew died, but you survived. And
particularly Britt, in Wonder Woman Year One, he spends like he spends like the first half of the Year One arc establishing that Steve had this best friend. They were best buddies going into battle together, and then he dies. Hey, remember when your best friend died?
Even in this issue, where Diana talks about that random friend, and apparently he had a daughter or something. So Diana asks, randomly about, oh, how was your goddaughter or something? And it's like, what? For 10 years, this person never existed. And how would Diana even know about this? So it's kind of like, yeah, you're making things up. You're making Diana seem like she cares for Steve and all of this. And yeah, knock off Oliver Queen. And it just does not make any sense.
Yeah, exactly. It's really dumb. I'm like, what the hell? And by Andrew says for $2. By thank you again for all the super chats. Remember they bed together in the Truth arc. It's not the Truth arc. It's it's the arc after she gets her mind back together. which
I mean, is her
still is
mind
stupid.
actually back together? No.
No, it's not. And Tom
She
King is
actually
proving that.
gets shat on by a bird. So, yeah.
And Rucka supposedly loves Wonder Woman. This is why, hey NJ, this is why I have now joined Britt in being God against Rucka ever coming back to write Wonder Woman. I hope that man never writes it again. So you also have the erosion of the supporting cast because okay, so he meant to go back to post-crisis, but it's like he all of a sudden made. Oh, remember when like it's only Steve, Etta, and Barbara. So what about actually Britt? So Steve, Etta, and Barbara. There are two characters there that are kind of missing. If only there were two characters that like introduced Diana to man's world and basically served as a surrogate family. Yeah, those characters probably don't exist and are better than this continuity.
Exactly. Like, where is Vanessa and Julia? Where?
Say which one of an absolute Wonder Woman? They're in the book now. Okay, so what's wrong?
I mean, she's a lawyer for Steve. Not really. And she was only on one page and kind of like left.
Let me put it this way. It's one page more than she's been in the current continuity.
Bar in hell.
Bar in hell. They do the same thing with Superman and Lois. No, exactly. So I'm like, you just make it where like it's just this one dude. And also remember, it's like again where it's like Diana constantly puts Steve ahead of everything else, even though, again, Britt, don't Superman and Wonder Woman have a saying about the world?
The world comes first.
Exactly. That should be Wonder Woman's new catchphrase. The world comes first. But no, DC writers would never do that because they're all secretly Steve Trevor fans. Because they're all like miserable men that just want to like self-insert so they can say, oh, I'm with Wonder Woman.
Right.
So anyway, so then you get the Amazons. She was turned into the Amazons village bicycle. So continue on, Britt.
Right. So you have, even Rucka actually, I think last year or so, fans were asking him questions and he was basically revising or the whole revisionist thing and saying, what about Io? Do you remember Io? Implying that Diana and Io did have relations or whatever. And it's kind of like, no, they did not. It was very much unrequited and Diana never was supposed to be with Amazons. Those are her aunts and her second mothers. She is the baby. They know her as their daughter. So why would you want to implement this? And I mean, that is pretty much why they want Diana to be old as dirt, to debut in wartime too, because they feel like that is another reason why she should be with Amazon. It's like, no, that is not whether you have Diana in wartime or not, it's still within her origin that she is the only child on the island, period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And it's like, and again, particularly in Earth 1, which is why I hold that up, when they're like, you'll always be a baby to us. Let's make out. And I'm like, Grant, what the hell, man? I'm pretty sure even Marston would never go that far, okay? And this was the man that was in a relationship with two women, okay?
All right.
It's bad when that's the standard, but it's like, and even with this, so he never wanted Wonder Woman to go home and see the Amazons. Oh wait, so you're also known for expanding the Amazonian lore, so you just want to undo your work. And by the way, NJ, no, that wasn't the Rebirth run where he made Veronica. He created Veronica Kill in Post Crisis, and he didn't make her more compelling in Rebirth. He really didn't. Stick with Post Crisis. That's fine. But when it comes to Rebirth, all of this is just rehashing of the same plot over and over again.
Yeah. I mean, Veronica Cale is just a female version of Lex Luthor. So that's it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like he was trying to turn Wonder Woman into Superman and all that stuff. And then Emmanuel says, I just don't see the point of Diana being with her sisters and aunts and stuff. Weirds me out. It's so people can claim that Wonder Woman, it's so he could make the claim that Wonder Woman's bisexual because she comes from an island of only women, because that's what Greg Rucka is obsessed with doing.
Exactly.
I'm sure he would make Lois bisexual if he could. Okay, according to the way the man writes characters, there's no such thing as straight women. Just saying. Am I wrong, Britt?
No.
Thank you. Continuing on, the other missed opportunity. So he just turns Etta Candy. Speaking of denigrating a character. So he does he makes Etta Candy more representative. I'm fine with that. Then he just turns her into Cheetah's girlfriend.
I mean, honestly, if you wanted to be have representation, diversity, and more progressive as Wonder Woman should be, having Steve and Etta married again in here, but also having Etta as a heavyset Black woman would have been a little bit more, progressive. Or if she was bisexual or something like that, it's still her married to Steve, and you can keep him as a white man or whatever. But that would have been better than to have her as the token Black friend, and that's it. Like, she does not really represent truly anything. And also have her as in the military, and it feels like she's still that Steve Trevor's secretary.
Yeah, exactly. It's like just more regression of a character. It's like again, this is why I look at Rucka. I hold Rucka to a higher standard because he markets himself as a progressive. But I'm like, really? You're just more regressive is what you are.
Right.
But it's like, yeah, he just turned her into Cheetah's girlfriend. That's the role that she played. It's like, oh, she's the one. She humanizes Cheetah. And I'm just like, what the hell? Can we stop with the whole humanizing BS? And again, can we stop trying to make supervillains sympathetic? Anyway, so then you get so Britt, what does Wonder Woman actually need?
Well, overall, she just needs someone who cares for her history and cares for Diana first, and also the matriarchal theme and the Amazons, that mother-daughter relationship with Hippolyta and everything like that, and also Julia and Vanessa, because they were really important to Diana's story in Post-Crisis. If you want to go back to Post-Crisis, go back to Post-Crisis with all of the narrative history that it entails.
Yeah, exactly. By NJ says, do you want the DCU editor to be white or Black? Honestly, do Black then.
It does not matter.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
Just give her something to do.
yeah. Don't just have her be there. Because that's the thing about Wonder Woman comics now. Even in the King run, where she shows up, she's just there. She's only been there just to tend to like Emily and the matriarch.
Right. That's
like,
it.
What has she done besides that?
Right.
So that's the funny part about this. And you get to in conclusion. In conclusion, and by the way, here's how. And according to a friend of mine that's like a huge New 52 Wonder Woman fan, but talked about the sales. The sales of New 52 Wonder Woman were actually really good. Rebirth Wonder Woman, not so much. Not so much. I'm detecting a common theme here.
You're going to overall, again, New 52, you had the flaws that could be fixed. Rebirth was one writer's vision that created a short term, maybe that petty, oh yeah, New 52 is going away, or as Nicola Scott said, we're throwing the shit in the trash. But at the same time, you threw away a lot of the groundwork of Wonder Woman, period. And this is why continuity is overall a mess now, and with all of the cherry picking, and with no one actually knows any of the history. As much as Mark Waid did with New History, it still is a contradiction. That's pretty much why the last two books took forever to come out, because they could not get, you know, that straight within the timeline,
Mm-hmm.
and how they took a lot out. They had to, you know, change certain things that happen, take out certain things that happen. Even if one story did happen, it was very much surface level. And so again, a lot of this is cherry picking, and that is not how you do a story, an ongoing story and narrative. This is why DC needs a reboot again, because, yeah, nothing makes sense. And,
And
you
by
don't.
reboot, we mean hard reboot, like Square One.
Right. We do.
Now, I will say, I'm going to give one positive. They made Wonder Woman slightly darker skinned.
I mean, Diana started to have melanin even with New 52.
True. Okay, so
So,
I can't even compliment them on that. Jeez.
yeah, so I mean, it really depends on the art, but yeah, Cliff Chang actually really had her with the melanin in, New 52 Wonder Woman. And then you had Tony Daniel, who, her and Clark, in a sense. So yeah, you can't really give that to Rebirth. I think Rebirth gave her a little bit more tan, a little bit more darker complexion, but overall, no, that was from New 52. And even then, though, um, she, I don't know, it felt like with Rucka, Diana she wasn't written as that foreign butterfly that we knew her to be. Even in New 52, she's basically the rowdy twin of Perez Diana.
Mm-hmm.
You know, with Rebirth, she's the bougie, airheaded cousin that you really cannot stand, and probably had like
Headed cousin. Oh my god, that's great.
that had like I'm sorry, but the artwork was, she looked like she had like liposuction or something and Botox, and she's like 40 years old trying to look young. I'm sorry, but that is how the artwork looked. And it was very appealing. Some instances were good. It was okay, but even with that book, I forgot to mention that. Liam Sharp, he
Oh yeah.
also, his Batman and Wonder Woman book, he had, wanted Diana to feel sorry that she couldn't stay in bed with Steve, and Steve wanted her again to control her in that sense. And also he was going to have Batman under the influence, drunk or some type of pheromone or whatever, and he tries to basically assault Diana. Um, and he thought of that as a tease for the Wonder Bat relationship. And I mean, if you think that assaulting Diana, is some type of tease for a relationship, yeah, I know that you're already thinking very wrong within that regard. But Sharp was he wasn't pleased that his book did not sell. And he let that be known a lot of the time. He even took a picture, even with taking a picture with Gal at that time to promote the book in a sense. It still did not work. And also at that time they were having the Batcat wedding and stuff, and he also said that Super Wonder fans were bullying him, sending death threats, which still
Receipts or it didn't happen.
exactly. And I'm saying that a lot of the writers, I think they knew how Super Wonder fans were honestly very chill, like says nothing, but for some reason it was kind of like a witch hunt. that SuperWonder is this bad thing that they want to taint, and it really did not do them any good, though.
Yeah, exactly. You wonder why this didn't really perform that well.
Right.
That's the funny part about it. So I love where they're like, "Oh, I have this great book that I just care if I get the opportunity to tell the story. Why isn't it selling?"
I mean, he really wanted to rely on JLU fans and everything, and
Even
thought
though
that
it was confirmed by Eisenberg, Wonder Woman was never going to be a love interest for Batman, even though they played with it.
that is the thing. It's kind of like Diana is not to be played, as a love interest for anyone if it's not going to be any type of relationship that benefits her.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. And it's like, for one thing, the other thing, that's not Wonder Woman, that's Angry Woman. Because I'm sorry, the fact that they didn't know what to do with Wonder Woman, so instead of calling someone that like understood Wonder Woman, they just continued to bastardize her. That's the only
Right.
reason why people think that Wonder Woman and Batman have this long-standing relationship, because of that show.
I mean, you could easily just read the or read the comics, and
But
especially
again,
Diana's
Britt,
comics.
these are the people that ask, do we have to read comics in order to be comic book fans? That was legit a conversation on Reddit, everyone. I kid you not, that was. I wish I was kidding.
Right.
So, Britt, tell me about Green Lantern 35.
Okay, so we finally have where things are concluding, or at least he's not really Jeremy isn't adding elements without giving something of a closure to things. He's actually, this is the issue where everything that he has built is coming to a close, or at least giving some breathing room and everything like that. You have dynamics and everything. The art is still good. Um, you, it's really showing, the different aspects within the Green Lantern Corp and the importance of each character, and also setting their own paths and things. I really like that because it's a huge, you know, um cast, but everyone is like the main character, which is very unique. When you look at Wonder Woman's family, you see that is Diana first, and then is her supporting cast. Whether it is Hippolyta or well, hell, it's just Hippolyta and the Amazons or the gods. Then you have Superman, which is supposed to be Superman first. Then you can have the Kents, Lois, the elves, Jimmy, Daily Planet crew and everything like that. With Batman, you do have the Bat family, and everyone has had a solo. They do act like the main character, but at the same time, they're still under Bruce. But with the Green Lanterns, everyone is their own character.
Yeah,
And
because it's still like they're Green Lantern. So when you say Green Lantern, just Green Lantern, you can't. It gives you that leeway.
exactly. So you have that, and Jeremy was able to solidify that more, that every character has their own story and their own paths. And that's what he has said to now, going on to the next issue, or the second book that they have now, who's within that telling their story. And then this one is not a Hal Jordan book anymore. It's pretty much like you have Kyle. I think Jessica's in the other book,
Yep.
but
Jessica, John, Joe, Guy, all of them.
Yeah, they're in the other book, but this one is pretty much now transitioning to more Kyle.
Yeah, and but it still has Hal in it. That's what I love about this. He's balancing both Hal and Kyle's story really well, I think.
Right.
So, in the Marvel Storm books, constant efforts to remind me of Wonder Woman, They literally have the Greek gods show up in this issue. And I will say this, Britt, I like these designs for the Greek gods much better than DC's.
I mean, that's because, in a sense, Marvel does take creative liberties much more than DC does.
Yeah, but it's like, look at even Hades and Persephone. Instead of the candle thing, he still has the blue toga. But I like how Persephone's like covered in red roses, and Hera just looks like honestly, Hera looks like the blood of Zeus. Hera, I'm just gonna tell you that right there. That's the funny part about this. Also, they even do the daughter story better because this character is just in an alternate Earth. And I remember, Britt, you told me you thought that this was main continuity.
Yeah, I did, but yeah, I was actually confused when that first issue, the other issue came out, and everyone was having a fit about it, and it was saying that, oh no, she is in main continuity, but actually she's already an adult or preteen or whatever, and she comes to, I guess either it's a conflict or whatever. But yeah, she's much cuter, and I think that is honestly, she can, the storyline is better than what King is doing with Trinity, which Trinity revolves around a man and, well, multiple men. Storm's daughter, I don't think revolves around who's the daddy and multiple men. I haven't caught up yet, but yeah, I don't think so.
As far as I remember, because I've read past this, I think I'm on issue I think 5 is the last one of this, by the way. But but the thing is, I don't think they ever really reveal who the father is. Which, hey, that's what they should have done,
right?
But again, it's so much better done with this. I almost call her Diana. Man, they even had me doing that. I like Storm fighting her mom throughout the multiverse, and you see all the different realities. But again, I always go back to the Greek gods. They're even handled better in this. I'm like, Marvel has its issues, but this is not one of them. Wow. And it's and again, they always show how powerful Storm is, but oh man, this is good. Britt, did you get a chance to watch the first 3 episodes of X-Men 97? How about Storm summoning the power of a sun?
Right. I love how they are unapologetically making Storm, this powerhouse, and also she has, because she is, and also because she has this motherly way about herself, and I don't mind her relationship with Forge at all. It's very sweet, and I think that for what it is, for the show, he was there, when she was having her retreat and powerless and, going through a lot. So I would say, honestly, I much prefer her with Forge than with Wolverine, because Wolverine's...
That's not a high bar, Britt.
It's not, but I mean, a lot of people have dragged that relationship. And then but then at the same time, they'll go and accept Wolverine, and I'm kind of like, no, because Wolverine has this obsession with Jean, and it feels like, and it is,
which is
Storm
kind of creepy,
is like
and it's kind of creepy, his obsession with Jean, considering the fact that he's immortal and she was a teenager,
right? And Storm is like the rebound or something, So this goes a long way.
I will say my one problem with it is remember last season when he told her she loved him, but they weren't that sure yet. Then all of a sudden off screen, or even more off screen, they're all of a sudden together. That's the one problem I have with it. You know what's my other problem with these 3 episodes, Britt? And all the people watching the show know what they did to Emma frickin' Frost. That ain't her story.
Yeah, being a weird cougar or whatever.
Reed Kruger, that's basically giving mutants to the U.S. government in exchange for amnesty. That's just because Bo DeMeo has a major hate hard-on for Emma Frost because of like the whole Jean Grey thing.
Wow.
And I take objection to it. And there's another reason why I take objection to it, Britt. It's because Bo basically said that he's there to protect the integrity of these characters. And I'm like, oh, you'll only protect the integrity if it fits your narrative then.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to, it's like, because if you were really about protecting the integrity of these characters, I'm sorry, you have to protect all of their integrity, bro. You can't just say, oh, I don't like Emma or what she did to Scott, and he basically blames Emma for everything that happened with Scott. Refer to our episode on Emma and Scott. And I'm like, bro, I'm sorry, but that is a hella weak argument for shitting on a character and making her, again, this weird cougar that like has this high body count, flirting with Cable. And then again, she essentially, Britt, she's given the mutants over to the X-Men's version of ICE.
Wow.
Including, okay, so here's something that I'm not sure if I mentioned it in the episode that we did on Emma and Scott, but okay, so what happens is Emma wanted to have kids, but I think she's barren or something like that. So she basically has 3 clones called the Stepford Cuckoos that she very much considers her daughters. She also gave the Stepford Cuckoos to basically ICE.
Oh, so they just really wanted to ruin her character.
Yeah, exactly. And this is sad because I was actually really excited because I'm like, oh, okay, more Emma. And then it's like, and I'm like, and then I see how they portray her and I'm like, oh no, it's so bad that CBR is doing articles on it, Britt.
Wow.
And I'm like, this is the one thing I think you should have thrown in the trash can when it comes to keeping Bo DeMeo's script. And I'm like, what the? It's like, I like everything else Bo did, but for some reason he let his hate boner for Emma control everything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, of all the characters, and Emma gets a lot of heat just because, oh, she was, some people have, by the way, called her the X-Men's version of Epstein because of her time with the Hellfire Club, even though anyone that's actually read her books knows it's very more complicated than that. But it's like, again, she gets blamed for everything. She gets character assassinated when, by the way, it's like Scott turning into a villain, kind of. He also teamed up with Magneto. I'm pretty sure that contributed some of it. Besides that. So what do you think of that, Britt?
It's a lot. I mean, the season is, for, the first 3 episodes is pretty good for, I did see a spoiler about the old woman,
Yeah.
of who she is supposed to be,
Yeah.
which honestly I cannot get with her her hair. That's just like, okay, you know. But other than that, the drama and the action and just the high stakes that you do feel with the story and everything, and especially in regards to Cable and or Nathan, that is good for the most part. Storm, really showing that she's a powerhouse is good. Every other detail, it is weird because it's so much that's changed just for the, drama of the story. Or, yeah, you can tell what character is liked and what character isn't liked.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, and again, the reason why I'm particularly upset with the Bo DeMeo thing, again, is because he made this big deal about protecting the integrity of the characters. And I'm like, it just makes him look very hypocritical because he said, oh, they wanted to like character assassinate Cyclops, but I said, no, you can't do that. And I'm like, oh, okay, so you're only okay with character assassinating the characters you don't like then.
Mm-hmm.
That's my big problem there. But anyway, so let's do a brief Q&A with the fans. You guys have any questions about Wonder Woman or even X-Men 97? But anyway, it's like, because it's like the problem with like, with again with this, like I get that like you have different preferences with the ship, whether or not that's Superman with Wonder Woman or Superman with Lois or Jean with Scott or like or like Emma with Scott. But when they're together and he's read the comics, he knows at this point what Emma was like. She wasn't even with Scott yet, and she was trying to protect the mutants from the government. She would never hand them over. I'm like, what? Grant established that after the mutant genocide of Genosha, Britt, Emma became a teacher of mutants because she loves her students so much and she wanted to protect them. So it's like protecting them does not mean handing them over to the government in exchange for amnesty.
Right.
But I'm just like, how do you get that so like backwards is what I really want to know. But it's like, and by Brits, we might as well talk about it here as well. So Absolute Wonder Woman 21 also like brings in actually the god, the god of Cheetah that's basically talking to Barbara. And I'm like, okay, it's interesting. What I do like about it is that you have Diana traveling throughout the Wild Isle, trying to like save her mom and trying to get back to, for lack of a better term, man's world. So I do kind of like and Diana finds the lizard that was her friend and basically says no one that's friends with me is safe anymore because of the gods targeting me. So I'm like, okay, I kind of dig that. So what did you think of the recent Absolute Wonder Woman issue? That bad for you, huh?
I mean, I don't even know why you ask me certain things, and you know, I'm not that
It's for the content, Britt. It's for the content.
For the content, it was all right, and I mean, her going through what she's going through. I guess I have to read the whole arc just to have an opinion, because season of the Witch with Zatanna I don't even know what that was supposed to be. Like, I guess it was a setup to introduce Zatanna, but at the same time, and for her to potentially have a solo, but the dynamic or whatever, it felt like it wasn't a true anything established to be something unique, and it felt like Thompson geared towards the fans with their expectation of Zatanna and Diana ended up together or whatever. But as far as actually establishing a relationship and to actually understand or to I guess in a sense of kind of like why have Zatanna? Yeah, they are witches, yeah, it's magic, but what truly makes their relationship, and it's kind of crazy that you can have bare minimum establishment for some dynamics, but Clark and Diana's is always under a microscope of what makes their relationship what it is, and why they are best friends, is something that you have to continue on to make a case for. But every other relationship, it can be something so superficial, and it's kind of like that is the most poetic thing ever.
It's the most what?
Poetic thing ever.
Yeah, exactly. And it was the most these Zatanna Diana stuff. But can I say, I'm a little concerned that if you want to do fan art that shows them together, fine. But why is Diana always brutalized in them?
She's either brutal or she is kind of like the more masculine one, instead of Diana having this, even with mainline Diana, they make her seem masculine instead of, we see Diana mainline, she is very feminine, so yeah, why is it that the other female character is feminine, or she's shorter or dainty more than Diana, and that's not Diana?
Yeah, but it's like, again, it's like when you look at some of the images of like the Absolute Diana, she's like bloodied and beaten, and I'm like, Well, I get, it's like, what the hell is that? It's like, why is that a thing why is that like interesting to draw is what I really want to know.
Right.
But yeah, but it's like, I can understand why. I like, put this way, Season of the Witch I enjoyed for the most part. This one I'm very much enjoying because, again, it's Diana. Because it's not just Diana wants to get back and save Barbara, by the way. It's not just that. She's also trying to save her mom as well. And she threatens Hecate. She goes, if your machinations is going to lead to my mother and Barbara dying, then I'm coming for you as well. Because it's also more of the gods screwing around with Diana. So I do appreciate that a lot, where it's like, look, where Diana's like, if you're going to screw with me, don't screw with my family.
Right.
So that's where I'm like, okay, I get it, Britt, that like you're not as like into Absolute Wonder Woman as I am, but it's like, at the very least, admit when it does good stuff.
I'm waiting for the good stuff.
Oh, come on, Britt. You gave the annual a 10 out of 10.
I mean, because that actually has something to do with Diana, giving more historical accuracy to Medusa's, story, and Diana actually fighting to, help her and everything like that. I guess I want more of that instead of the main story where it just feels like it's teetering, or, you get a lot of hype, but there's no hype within actually reading the story. It's very baseline. So yeah, if this arc is good by its end, then yeah, I will give it whatever positive notes that I can. But as for right now, for one issue, it's, kind of just there.
Okay. You know what? And that's fair. And again, it's like, and see everyone, Britt and I can disagree on things and be fine. Act more like this in your lives. But yeah, but it's like, I think Wonder Woman needs, I think Wonder Woman needs, what do you mean, Andrew? If you mean like she needs a new writer, hell, she let me put it this way. If ever there was a reason why we need a hard reboot, it's Wonder Woman, because, and this is not just Tom King screwed up. It's the fact that like there's been so many screw ups with Wonder Woman that her lore is really hard to get now.
Right.
Although Tom King made the issue worse, but what are you gonna do? But it's also the issue where it's like when you look at like the way Wonder Woman is handled, it's like, again, as a former DC editor told me, it's like she's considered the training book for new editors. Yeah, that's right. Wonder Woman, the character that is like the third member of the Trinity, that is one of DC's pillars in name only, but through their own marketing, is considered just the training book for junior editors.
Mm.
And I'm like, how is that not seen as a problem?
Right.
But yeah, so what other questions do you guys have? We're here to answer your questions for. Britt's going to be here for probably a couple more minutes, and I'll stay on and answer some questions. But DC can't do her story justice. Her lore is metal, and her relationship and her origin is barely classic. Well, yeah, okay, so that's what it means. Yeah, exactly. It's like when they consider the classic thing to be. But here's the thing. Again, Britt, and you say this all the time. I love when they keep trying to say, oh, we're going to like homage George Perez. George Perez is the best. But then the writers keep trying to like change George Perez.
They have tried to change George, what his foundation ever since War of the Gods, because he was establishing Diana to be more important and to pretty much be central, to the superhero community. She was the young, modern, fresh face. You had Superman close to her as he was supportive of her, but also he was an advocate, and he, spoke highly of her. He was that within the superhero community, and a lot of people began to also look up to Diana. And yeah, some of DC editorial doesn't want that. They want Diana to be pushed in the background, as we even, heard Tomasi, where Diana is intimidating and demanding the spotlight. They don't like for female characters to be that demanding or to be truly independent. They You can only quote unquote girl boss for so long, and you end up in that same, you know, expected narrative that female characters are supposed to be in.
Yeah, exactly. John Jones says the solution to DC Comics is getting rid of DC editorial and firing the entire writing staff. You can't do that, but you could. I like put it this way, John. The way that you really the way you really like fix that is you get rid of editorial first, because a lot of the decisions made by writers is pushed by the actual editors. So so if first you try and like fix up the editors, and then you see like if the writer staff is in there. All right, pre-crisis Wonder Woman, you mean the one where Steve Trevor is basically a creepy stalker again? See, I'm detecting a commonality in Steve Trevor's story. Isn't that funny, Britt?
Right.
He's always the one that's like the stalker, the one that's like obsessed with Diana. And if they thought that was romantic, I will say I love in the Justice Society World War II movie where they have Steve constantly propose to her and stuff. So he tells Barry about what he does, and then Barry legit says, "So you're a stalker."
Right.
I that was the most hilarious thing ever. Post crisis when we were sorry, I misspelled. Okay, yeah, and in post crisis, yeah, it was more of like them being close friends, and it's like him like being a helpful ear to hear her issues, or like to like what's the word, to like help her throughout like her time in Man's World. But again, and also here's the thing, he wasn't even what led her to go to Man's World, because if you look at like the Perez story, she showed up beforehand. It's like Hermes brought her to Man's World.
Right.
So it's like the more you look at Perez's, the more you look at Steve Trevor's role in Wonder Woman, it's not that big. That's the funny part about it. But anyway, Britt, so if you have to go, you can go ahead and knock off unless you have a half hour longer.
Okay. So I will catch y'all later.
But anyway, so do you have any stories you want to promote?
Well, yeah, I do have some one-shots that I will be uploading this week, finishing up and uploading simultaneously. The next chapters of all of the chapter stories, Odyssey, Shelter, and like I said, I will have chapters 1 and 2 of Diana's adopted daughter story as well. I'm doing a few more tweaks on chapter 2, and that will be up. And then I still have to upload my June shorts. So yeah, that's all.
Have a good one, Britt, and we will see you around. I'll still stay on and answer questions.
All right. Talk to y'all later.
Have a good one. So yeah, ask any questions about Wonder Woman, whatever you guys would like to know about, and I'll be sure to answer them. And you asked when the Substack's online. I'll ask her. But anyway, yeah. So any questions you guys would like me to answer, and we can expand it to like general DC comic stuff, and we can talk about that, because yeah, turns out according to Reddit, my anti-Rucka stance is turning out to be quite the hot take, which I'm like, I don't care, because again, it's my opinion. You're allowed to like it. That's totally fine. If you guys like it, that's totally fine. Diana's fights. What do you mean? What are you I think it was. Are they good? Which one's your favorites? Diana's fights. Okay. Well, I think her battle or any battle against Grail, that's when you really know it's a good time. Oh, by the way, and Cameron, it's because they're upset with like me saying that it was a downgrade from New 52. You mean the Wonder Woman Reddit, right? Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. But anyway, but it's like they're like, because that one change with the Amazons, the entire era is now destroyed. And I'm like, no, it's not. You could have fixed that, but no. I guess so. I guess some people are just a-holes, but regardless, it's really like, it's really wild on that, the way I kind of think about it. It's like, that's because of that one detail, the entire version is like completely like unsalvageable. Like, is it that bad? No, it's not. How can Diana's stories be improved in the future? Well, if you put writers on her that aren't trying to like self-insert or like that actually know her lore and respect her lore, that's the first thing. Because it all starts with who you put on the book. Because if you put proper writers on the book, what that will lead to is then you can actually like have interesting stories happening, have interesting lore, have interesting contributions to the Wonder Woman story, as opposed to just lazily shitting on things. It's really like, and that's the big problem. Because okay, wait, hang on, I'm trying to get this to load. Like, I'm not a Superman fan. I only like 1938 to 2015 Superman book, and they so mad. Yeah. Well, because again, Andrew, it's because you're a fan of like that pre-crisis era of Superman. The fan base likes to pretend that that era of Superman didn't happen. According as Britt puts it all the time on our show, it's like they pretend like Superman was created by John Byrne. Right? NJ says, hope after issue 50 we get a full relaunch and start from issue 1 with a new team of writers listed. Yeah, let me put it this way. Of the artists I would want as a thing, Matea de Ayus is one of them. Hey, what's up, Luffy? What's something you feel has always been missing from Wonder Woman stories? A general respect for the Amazons and their roles in her life. Because here's the problem with that. And by Luffy, I would encourage you after you watch this to go back and watch the rest of it. Britt and I crap on Rebirth. But yeah, in terms of like what I feel is missing, they keep trying to separate Diana from Wonder Woman from the Amazons. Even Rucka wanted to do that. Again, which is why I'm really like, so he's the definitive Wonder Woman writer. But it's like, if you actually like respect the lore and stuff and not try and like, because Diana, it's important that Diana be able to go home, be able to separate, because when you think about it, Amazon, when you think about it, the Amazons and the Themyscira are basically Diana's version of the Fortress of Solitude. Granted, she's not like Solitude, if you will, but it's that type of concept there. Can we move on from the Rebirth suit for now? Rebirth's dead. Well, they should. It's like, but let me put it this way: whatever the DCU or the next movie Wonder Woman suit is going to be, that's when they decide to like. That's when they decide to go in the direction of what's the word? That's when they decide to like change the suit, and that's what they'll do with the different suit and stuff. And So that sounds like the same problem that writers have with Superman because they keep trying to separate it from Krypton. Yeah, exactly. Because they think that like they can't write her. And if you notice, a lot of it is the writers that wrote that are known for writing Marvel characters. Again, they keep trying to make DC like Marvel, and that's partly the issue. This is why I keep telling people when they're like, "Oh, I want Marvel characters to be like." To be accurate, to be like relatable, to be down to earth. And I'm like, that's not what DC is. DC is the gods amongst the mortals, for lack of a better term. And so it's like when you take away that, guess what that does? You then lose what makes DC unique from Marvel. It's like Nick and I were doing a stream a couple of years back where someone said, DC does not have to be different than Marvel. And I'm like, do you see the DC logo? Yeah, it's a different company, ergo they're different characters. And we got the person to admit that they're basically just a Marvel fan. So it's like, that's the other part with Marvel fans. They want everything to reflect Marvel comics, which thank God DC isn't like Marvel, because then it'd be so much worse, guys. It would be so much worse if DC was like Marvel. But yeah, so what other questions do you guys have about Wonder Woman, DC Comics in general? I'm opening it up. Opening it up. I had a blast playing Marvel Rivals last night. I may do it again. Yeah, it's definitely BS, because it's like, look, it's like you may have your problems with like certain errors, but if they promote like it's, I just don't understand how like one thing wrong and all of a sudden all of the fans, all of the era is like unsalvageable, and then the fans turns out to be dicks to writers. It's like so many. It's like when Azzarello did a post talking about hey, I was trying to do something new and stuff, and it's like but the fans didn't really like it. But then of course the fan base was like really that like upset about it and were very, very mean to him about it in the comments. Yeah, Luffy, Marvel continuity. I have a question for you. What continuity? That's the thing. What continuity? It doesn't really like. It's not like they don't respect their own continuity because they keep saying that there's violation stuff. What's the best thing writers can do with Lois Lane? It seems like they've run out of road with the character. Honestly, divorce her from Clark and try and make her her own character. Do a bunch of, here's what you can do. Do a bunch of like, what's the word? Do a bunch of like stories where it's like a lot of like noir stories, kind of like here's the thing. In concept, the Lois Lane book by Rucka actually is really cool because it's more of like a journalist investigative like storyline. That actually is really cool. But it's like but it's like you lose a lot of that when you just completely. But it's like if you're not going to do that storyline, you know what you just do? You just like make her like every other character, just like a love interest. Batman has similar issues. It can be a little hopeful. They want to copy melody cars in canon. Well, yeah. Exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking, brother. Yeah, it's like, because again, Lois has a place and you could do a lot of cool stuff with her, but it's like the problem is when you really look at it, there's not much you can do because she will always be seen as just Superman's love interest. That's it, because that's all she will ever be, because she is like, because that's what the character is. She's Superman's love interest. How her book that people try and like push up, she had a very successful series, was literally called Superman's Girlfriend, Lois Lane. So it's like, what are you doing? Oh, they literally just revealed a new 52 statue. Wow, of Superman. That's new. I didn't expect that. Hang on, I'll do this and then I'll share an image of it. So take a look at this statue. This is the scene in Jim Lee's book when Superman goes, "Come on, smile for me," and he whips a bus at them. It's called Superman Unchained. Look at that. That actually looks really cool. I may want to pick that up. That actually looks really cool. It's 1/6, so it's a Hot Toy scale. Interesting. That actually is kind of cool. That actually is kind of cool. But yeah, so what other DC questions do you guys have for a bit? I'll be on for like a little bit longer. Right. Me personally, I'd make divorce Lois and Clark into a Hell storyline where she becomes a villain for Lilith. That would be another original idea. That's one. Do you have any ideas for villain Lois? How about she doesn't want to give up the Superwoman powers, so she becomes a villain because the Justice League needs everything to go back to the way it was for balance purposes, but Lois doesn't want it because she feels useful for the first time. So that's kind of a very that's the way I would kind of do it if I had to do a villain Lois, because there's like a lot that you actually can do with a villain Lois. As a matter of fact, there's like a lot, and you know it's kind of funny. Again, isn't it kind of interesting how the villain Lois stories are oftentimes more like fascinating than non-villain Lois stories. Isn't that funny how it ends up like that? That's really fun. That's really hilarious when you really think about it. Yeah, so what other quick questions do you guys have, ladies and gents? I just did my new 52 meet preview Flashpoint, and they're just chilling. Take that down. Yeah, exactly, Dan Jurgens. Honestly, Lois, but as a journalist antagonist. Yeah, my whole concept for a like relaunch would be like Lois is a rival journalist wanting to like expose Superman as like to expose who Superman is. And the problem that Superman runs into is like he has to be careful. It's like, okay, do I go and save people? Because if I go and save, I have to be very careful how I go and save the situation. Because if I don't want to give Lois any indicator of who I am, so that's a really interesting way you could actually like play around with evil Lois. So that way you can make it where like, she's technically not not an evil character. She's just career-wise ambitious. So if you play around with that, there's like a lot that you could go with that. If you could give Clark another career, what would you give him? A teacher. Interesting. I would give him more of a scientific like one. I would give him. I like the idea of Clark being a scientist. But you could also make it where, like, actually, no, I would rather him being like a scientist. That actually works. Him being a scientist actually works like really well as like a character and stuff. That actually works a lot. Because it's like Clark. People forget that like Clark has this very like scientifically minded like mind, if you will. Like he really is really good at like he really is a smart character, but he's not given the opportunity to really like show his smarts as a character. But once again, hey, what's up, X-Men Superfan? Once again, DC doesn't let him actually do anything with it. Right. My computer's freezing up. Hang on. People forget he's a genius. Yeah, I know. They definitely do. That's the funny part about it. They forget that he is this literal genius of a character. But it's like because he's not with Lois, that's why he's not good enough. And I'm like, okay. That's like now I'm just like thinking you guys just don't understand the character. They don't get me wrong. They definitely don't. But yeah. So what other questions do you guys have for me? I'm gonna try and turn off my camera because I think that like it's slowing down my computer. He would be a self-employed journalist. New 52 wanted to do something very interesting with him. Yeah, exactly. I would like that as well. Let me try turning my camera again. Okay, for some reason the camera is what's making this be slow. Hang on, let me do this. But yeah, him being like an independent journalist actually works a lot. Works really well. An independent journalist, really like he's like a global correspondent where like he can still travel and stuff. Because the reason why he's a journalist is because he wants a career field where he could travel and show up at all these like, oh my gosh, where he can like travel and show up at all these locations and not be like suspicious or anything like that. So that's kind of why. So if you want to keep that, you could definitely like go in that direction, I think. So we'll go on for 10 more minutes and then we'll wrap up the show for the week. Do you think Creature Commandos will be better now it's being written by a writer's room instead of James Gunn alone? The Pride was a good character, but I needed more depth. I would say so. It probably will be more memorable. But I prefer the Rebirth over New 52. But hey, you know what? That's fair. X-Men Superfan, you're allowed to have that opinion. You are more than welcome to have that opinion. And I respect it, my friend. Again, the purpose of the stream is like, hey, you don't have to like the same things that other people like. If you like New 52 Wonder Woman and all that other stuff, that is your right 110%. But New 52 had its moments except the Zoo stuff. Yeah, exactly. And that's totally fine. You are more than welcome to have that opinion. I'm just going to tell you that right there. You are more than welcome. And that's what we've lost with like a lot of characters. It's like with a lot of discourse online is fans are not allowed to just like different things. I used to think in 52 was the worst, and then Tom King came. I know. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing that I encountered when I started reviewing Wonder Woman runs. It's like a lot of the stuff that I didn't like I used to hate the 2000 and like the 2009 Wonder Woman movie, and but it's like when I looked at it, I was like, okay, that actually is that's not really that bad when you actually think about how much worse it could be. So it's like, yeah, you are very, very right. It turns out if it puts in perspective on how much worse it could be. It definitely puts it more into perspective. It definitely puts it more into perspective. Honestly, I feel the same way, and no one can have a different opinion. No one's and no, this is the most acceptable means you're not a fan. Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the things that I always try to make Comics League a counter to. If you had to do a DC storyline with the original John Kent, Hyperman, how would you do it? Kingdom Come. Kingdom Come. Just do a sequel to Kingdom Come if you're really that concerned about it. That's the funny part is like Kingdom Come did the best version of that storyline. That's the funny part about it. And then I read X-Men books nowadays from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s. Yep, that's a good way to approach it. Oh, so you're not a fan of the Orgy Island? Let me try this again. No, okay, it's not working. Well, actually, you know what? I'm gonna try this. 1 second, everybody. Actually, I'm gonna try leaving and coming back in. I'll be right back. All right, there you go. That seems to be working kind of. Actually, no, I'll just do this. Yeah. Why do you think DC hasn't given Kingdom Come a movie adaptation? Because there's this very specific like animation style that you go with when it comes to Kingdom Come, and it's like everyone's gonna expect it to just be like the animation style that's like looks like Alex Ross, and it's like you can't expect that. That's the funny part about it. You really can't expect Kingdom Come to look a Kingdom Come animated movie to look like a Kingdom Come to look like that. You just can't. But anyway, good luck. Yeah. And then X-Men Superfan says, I'm okay with the Mr. Terrific show, because I trust Heinberg. Jimmy Olsen needs to be brought more. No, but I'm not, because again, it's like, so you're doing that instead of Wonder Woman. That's my problem. I'm like, stop announcing D-list characters. That's the big problem. Like, stop announcing D-list characters that honestly should not get their own stuff. Not everyone needs their own projects. Definitely not everyone needs their own projects. I get that people have an attachment to certain characters, but you don't need it. You really, really, really don't. Do you think modern writers actually do you think modern writers can actually do a Wonder Woman? That's the question. Because do they make it too girl bossy? How do you do this? That's the funny part about it. I'm like, oh no. Like, how do you actually do this properly? And that's the big problem there. It's like, oh no, how do you like actually like, because like you don't want to like actually go like too far when it comes to the stuff, because otherwise it's just not going to like, it's not going, you don't want to like, how do I say this? It's like you don't want to go too far on the girl boss thing, because that will turn people off immediately. But you also don't want to ignore that. In other words, that's the funny thing about it. It's like it's like there needs to be a proper, what's that word? Yes, balance. Needs to be a proper balance, and there's not proper balance like at all. Yeah, that's the other thing. It's like, do I want a more agenda-driven Wonder Woman? That's the big problem there. Yeah, so what other questions do you guys got? You can't entirely ignore Diana being powerful, but you just can't ignore her being feminine and her connection to love. Yeah, exactly, but too many writers just want to do that because they also misinterpret Diana as being a man-hater, and we both know, I mean, we all know Diana's not that either. So it's like too many writers, they just go back and forth on the bullshit when it comes to Wonder Woman and stuff. But how do you feel if they decide to release a Super Wonder movie? Well, again, that's the problem. Are they actually going to do a Super Wonder movie, or are they going to do a movie and like make it super like talk about why they don't work together? Because that's the big problem there. Luffy, it's like, do I trust Hollywood enough to actually do it properly? That's the big issue there. Yeah, and that's the thing with Tim and Dini did the animated Wonder Woman. That's how they play. It was more Tim because I've seen Dini write Wonder Woman well. That's the funny part about it. Dini has handled Wonder Woman fairly decently. It's only when like Bruce Timm is in charge that we get like catastrophic. Let me put it to you that way. A few more comments and then we'll wrap up. And then to be fair, feminists themselves make it very hard to believe they don't hate men. Some of them. Yeah, most of them are chill. I'll give you that. Do you agree Diana needs a serious power upgrade? No, but people need to actually acknowledge how powerful she is, because like Diana is a beast of a character, but it's like too many creatives don't understand Diana, don't understand her feats, don't understand her character. So I'm like, if you don't understand who she is, why are you doing stuff with her? It doesn't make a lot of sense. Because it's like with Diana is almost as fast as the Flash. There's so much that that you can do with Diana. Even Aquaman is stronger than her right now, bro. Well, because they keep giving him powers. There are a lot. Okay, but Dini did Batman better than Bruce Timm. Yeah, I agree with you on that one as well. I really do. They need to give her a cosmic power level, at least for a little while. Oh, that could be actually really fun. That could actually be really fun. I'd be cool with that. What other questions? Heck, British if he can't write here as well. Yeah, exactly. He really gives her spot. But yeah, I definitely agree. I would be fine with them like giving Diana a temporary power upgrade. That could be really fun. But yeah, so I think how would a DC mainline reboot start? Honestly, I would start since a few of them start with Wonder Woman, since Superman or Batman. I would start it with Wonder Woman. Have it where like it's like the idea that like the gods were the first superheroes, and then Diana, and then like they vanished, and then new gods rose up, new gods, air quote. and the New Gods being like the Justice League and such. And you can like have that like whole story progress to the point where like Diana, to the point where like Diana is like the central linchpin of the DC universe. There's a lot that they could do that they just won't do. Also, someone better bring back God mode. Yeah, the God mode thing was freaking dope. They definitely need to bring that back for sure. I'm waiting for them to do so. I really hope they do. Yeah, so other also someone, but yeah, the God mode thing was really good. I really like that. Yeah, God mode was awesome. Again, another thing the new 52 did that no one gives it credit for. But anyway, I think that's a good place to leave it. So that's, I hope you guys enjoyed this show. And hope you guys enjoyed this episode. So for Wonder Woman Wednesday tomorrow, okay, I'm going to try and do this again. Give me 1 second. Okay, here we go. So for Wonder Woman Wednesday, I'm going to be talking about, I'll either do an episode on why DC needs to, why fans need to stop shipping Diana with other Amazons. Actually, that might actually be a great episode. If you go, so I'm going to give you guys the choice for this week's episode. I was going to talk about Diana hanging out, teaming up with Supergirl and why she's like a mentor to the character. Or I could do an episode talking about why Diana should not be shipped with other Amazons. What do you guys think? Either of those are good topics. I'll let you guys decide on that one. What do you guys think? Ship. All right. So we got one vote for the Amazons one. Because I feel like talking to Britt about this with the Rucka thing, talking about the Amazon shipping 2-0. All right. I may have to talk about this because hearing Britt talk about it has brought me up like why I really need to talk about this. Amazon shipping only works if they come after Diana's born and grow up. No, because she still considers them. Oh, NJ, the other one. But I'm still going to do the other topic. That'll just be the week after. Is about Diana's relationship with Supergirl, like her mentor relationship. Her with Supergirl for me. And NJ, so okay, it looks like the Amazon shipping is one, but NJ, that's going to be the week after. So this week it's going to be that's going to be this week it's going to be the Amazon one, and then next week is going to be the Supergirl one. So so we're still going to do it. So you're still going to get that. For Under Two Capes, I'm thinking about what character I want to do a full-on deep dive on, and may do Angela from Marvel, but we'll see. In terms of movie night, we're going to be talking about the Wolverine, and then any UTC topics you guys want us to cover, my Twitter's there. Anyway, stay at work, everyone. Remember, Lois Lane is Lois Lane. Greg Rucka sucks, and we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.